Hey guys, Luton here and welcome back for another episode of Below the Line. I had a few topics on my radar this week, but I instead decided to go with this. Gamers more and more seem like addicts, in the sense that they are seeking always short-term highs instead of a meaningful investment of self. My question today, is that a true statement? Now, the case in point, let's take a little look at live streaming. Now, live streams on Twitch are often a good example of what games are trending, and this week it's Sea of Thieves. But last week it could have been something else very easily, and there are many games which flash up as a flavour of the week or a flavour of the month, and they just disappear off the radar. Now, this shouldn't be some huge shock to anybody. Obviously, people are going to jump onto what games are hot and check out the new updates, and obviously that's often why people watch on Twitch, to find out if something is worth getting before they pick it up for themselves. Live streams are not a constant gauge of engagement. Take a look at Squad. Now, that sits regularly with only about 50 viewers on Twitch, but it has an active, regularly engaged player base. And it's got to be said, Twitch isn't a platform that revolves only around audience interest. It's not like a direct correlation. It's often far more about the streamers themselves and the entertainers than it is specifically just the game. The thing is that games are coming out thicker and faster than ever before, and it's this density of releases coupled with DLC that makes everything seem like it has a momentary high and then it's on to the next update. My disdain for marketing hype probably doesn't help, as it whips people into a mouth-foaming frenzy for a few weeks and then just disappears. Really, from friends and people that I speak to though, you often find people these days having the confusion of just what to play. Do they stick with something that they know and they enjoy, or do they jump into that new thing and promise golden new adventures with much, much greener grass on the other side? Perhaps it's this repeatable cycle that contributes toward player base hemorrhaging and the cycle of poor engagement. One of the hardest things for a game to do is retain its audience. It may well succeed in having an explosive release with a lot of hyped interest around it, and that's definitely been the case with this Sea of Thieves game, but retaining that audience is far harder, and that's when you fall back on what the game actually is, its core content. Is it fun? Do the mechanics work? Does it have longevity? And this is the case for AAA titles just as much as it is indie kickstarted titles. Like case in point, look at something like Battalion 1944. That was an indie game which had a giant Kickstarter, a huge Kickstarter, but now if you go read their forums with multiple threads complaining the game is flat out dead, and it's only been live for a few weeks. And you see it with plenty of AAA titles as well, whether it's Battlefield, Star Wars Battlefront, any of these things. Huge release with hundreds of thousands of players, and then it drops down to 20 to 50k players regularly. Now, that's still very good, but you got to remember that's at the AAA end of the spectrum. I think honestly this kind of boom and bust player engagement is certainly not representative of gamers on the whole, but it definitely must represent a sizable percentage, which is what leads me back to my original statement. Is it that these people are just always craving that new game high, they got to get that fix, or is it something more along the lines that they're just really bad at choosing games and maybe they're too quick to buy into the hype and the marketing just works on them? Despite for calls from many people to say not invest in big AAA releases as a protest to shady producer actions, those games time and time again, they still bring in the gold. So I think we know there's plenty of people out there who just don't care about researching their purchases. This also shouldn't be particularly shocking. But what's this story behind disposable games? It used to be a few years ago that we only saw this happen around games that were either missold or hollow shells that were cleverly disguised. To be honest, looking at Sea of Thieves, I'm pretty sure that might be already the case with it anyway. But it does seem to be happening more and more, where a game gets a booming release, but 2 weeks later, it's dead in the water. Pun intended. Is that down to the players just craving a sweet new game high? Or is it the developers not delivering a game with enough meat for people to get their teeth into? Tell me guys down in the comments below, as always. So now we move on to part 2 of Below the Line, where we look at your comments. And last week we were talking about, would you be buying Battlefield 5 as and when it comes out? Now, my main thing is, I wonder how many people who think, yeah, I definitely am not going to be picking that up, I didn't buy the last ones. How many of those people that say they're not going to buy it are actually not going to buy it? Because my point was like, look, hold my hands up. You know, I'm interested, I want to give it a try, I want to see what they've done. And I don't think I can do that well enough without actually picking up the game. Now, that might be, as I say, for my sins, but nonetheless, I've got to go there, I think. So first up, you, who says, Luton, I don't really care for Battlefield 1. The detractors for me are really that I don't like the flow of the game, nor do I feel that I'm part of a squad like I did in other Battlefield games. I remember staying up for hours playing BF3 and 4 with my friends, rolling with a diverse squad. Yeah, same for me. I feel that the classes were more balanced and more adaptable. In my personal opinion, having weapons that span across classes made classes like the Sniper and Engineer more suited for long or short distance engagements. In BF1, it is my personal belief that classes like the Sniper don't really have a fit on all maps. The majority of players are playing the Assault class due to the gadgets and weapons. I'm not so sure about that nowadays, but okay. In the next BF game, I see no reason for guns like Shotgun or some PDW close quarter battle rifles to span across classes. Again, not sure I agree on that. I quite like that always. This gives vitality to classes that may get cast into a role that doesn't fill a squad role or a map playstyle. I also think that squad style of allowing a certain amount of classes on a map is a great addition to the Battlefield games. Of course it would be. 100%. They will never do that. It would take out sniper squads that we saw in BF3 or 4. Again, of course, a good thing. Will they do it? No. Limits the spam reses that are even in the current game. I'd like to see a revise to the squad spawn. Again, yes, are they going to do that? Maybe. Maybe allow for a squad spawn in a safe area of X amount of space. This would help with the feeling of spawning and dying. All in all, I hope the next Battlefield improves on its predecessors and doesn't become a stale BF1. Yes, agreed. Now, I don't normally include bullet-pointed comments, but 2 passives isn't too bad. He says, for me to consider going back to Battlefield, they're going to really have to make team play a major focus, drop progression system on items that affect gameplay. Here's a list of things that would make me want to go Battlefield another go. Simple equipment tree per class choice. For instance, the Assault class would get to choose from one of 3 primary weapons, so similar to like Verdun, that are suited for 3 different engagement distances, such as Kar 98, SG44 and MP40. 1 hand grenade per class that can only be restocked from ammo crates located at capture points on the map. What about if you die though? See, that's the problem. You die, you just get another one straight away. Medics, engineers and ammo bearers should not have specialised equipment such as LMGs, mortars, rocket launchers or sniper rifles as an option for their kits. Rocket launchers, timed explosives, mortars should be pickups located at capture points on the map. Yeah, I'm more okay with that, but then you've got to be careful people don't just sort of hang around camping them, you see. That's always the issue with that kind of thing. Aircraft should be on a timer of say around 5 minutes before you are returned to the ground, limiting the endless loitering and kill farming. I agree with that. Bonus points should be awarded for killing enemy tanks, boats, transport vehicles, artillery placements and map-specific objectives. Maybe even double bonuses could be awarded for killing targets marked by squad leaders. I actually kind of like that as a concept as well for air stuff. I'll talk about it in a minute. Actual map objectives that matter, such as blowing up bridges to cut off access to vehicles, yeah, we need that back. Taking an airfield, give your team air support, need that back. Destroy a fuel depot to limit enhanced vehicles available per side, it's a nice idea as well. Allow engineers to bolster defences on capture points around the map, again, great idea, will it happen? No. The spawn flares should only allow squad mates to parachute onto your position, making it a more risky proposition to use. Yeah, something like the head in Killzone 2, where you drop a flare as a tactical unit, and then that allows people to spawn in there. That'd be a great option for the squad leader, but again, a little bit of option there for potential abuse depending on where that was being put. And if it's a flare, you know, does it have to throw on the ground? People are going to throw it on top of buildings and shit like that. You got to be careful how that kind of thing goes down. Properly integrated individual squad and team level communications, again, good to see, but meh. Will it happen? No. For the love of God, stop bragging about how realistic Battlefield is. I don't know if people and Sandbox and what have you, I don't know if it's a realistic, I don't know if they say that anymore. They usually talk about speed and like the fastest Battlefield ever and blah blah blah. But look, to come back to that thing about aircraft only being limited for 5 minutes, it kind of makes me think of like how they have it in Star Wars Battlefront 2, where it's kind of like a power up. Almost, somebody said to me the other day, LTU advocating kill streaks. No, never. I'm not advocating kill streaks in Battlefield, but I'm just saying that, you know, you might achieve a certain amount of points by, say, capturing points and also combining kills into that as well somehow. And then that's what gives you the opportunity. Or perhaps it is like a specific point on a map, you know, because again, kind of like with Tannenberg, where they have certain capture points which relate to certain things, like we had in actually Battlefield 1943, where if you captured the airfield in Battlefield 1943, it had a building that you could go into and call in a bombing raid across the map, and you could control where that went and what happens with it. It's quite a powerful thing to come in, and I think that aircraft would be a good thing to have there. So it wouldn't mean that you couldn't have like these pilots that love to pilot being in the game and having like a fully controllable aircraft, but maybe they have a limited amount of flight time, like 10 minutes or something. Then after that 10 minutes, they, you know, the plane kind of goes off of the field and it goes back again. So it's kind of like, it's more like close air support rather than having planes around all the time. So you can kind of come in, you can pilot it, you can do what you need to do, but then you see, instead of having this constant dogfighting, where it's just like dogfighting, and they just get so consumed by that, they would have more time to focus in on reaping the ground and doing that. And it would actually, even if they weren't getting the kills, it could be very suppressive, and it would actually make a big difference. So again, but you know, it all have to be balanced up, and the scores in terms of bringing it in would have to be quite appropriate, and so on and so on. But yeah, I don't know. So I think like that's a concept. I like the idea of it kind of being coming in and being on a timed basis. I wonder what you guys think about that. Decided to include some short comments this week as well. Crosby says if they fuck Battlefield 5 up, it's going to be my last game from DICE as long as it's EA publisher. I think a lot of people are feeling that, and that's why I say I really feel like there is a lot of weight on this game because of many of the things which have been coming up in the last sort of 12 months. Frogs also says, honestly, I don't know. Seriously, after everything that's happened in gaming, I'm really lost to what's going to bring me back. Something that works, reminds me of what brought me there in the first place. Again, I think people are looking back to games that they played and they're thinking, Jesus Christ, how did we get here? And the answer is sales, obviously. And then the last one from GS, Optimistic GS, who says, I won't be returning to Battlefield. Battlefield 1 is the worst Battlefield I played. The maps are trash, having elite classes is stupid, that is, of course, true. The sweet spots in snipers is ridiculous, and I'll buy Postscriptum, Hell Let Loose, and leave the children to buy and play Battlefield 2018, which is going to be reskinned BF1. So it's good to have some forward-thinking optimism there, which is sweet coming from me with my consistent positive outlook on all things, but... Right, back to the longer comments, and Soulfire says, hey LT, sorry for another long comment, but LT misspelled as well. Sorry for another long comment, but there's so much to say. At this point, it would take an awful lot to get me to purchase Battlefield 5, but it wouldn't be impossible. I agree with you about the need for emphasis on team play, well-balanced gun and game mechanics, great map design, substance over style in general. To really get me to purchase Battlefield 5, I would love to see some significant effort placed on quality single-player content to enjoy, i.e. a solid, well-developed campaign mode with an engaging story. I might be in the minority here, but I actually do base my decision on a game around this. I want characters that develop and that I'm invested in. I want to feel serious loss, as in it actually affects gameplay if and when they die, not just having some meat shield to draw enemy fire, which is often how FPS campaigns feel. It's why I feel so disconnected from them. It's just, you really feel just completely emotionless when you're playing most FPS single player games, for me anyway. Oh, you die, you get to have another go, have another go, have another go, have another go. There's no sense of purpose or weight or investment there at all. He says, how about compelling me to make decisions that affect the outcome of the game? Oh my god, such a revolutionary concept. That's not shade at him, that's me, like the devs, why don't they do this? Do I push on to complete the objective, or do I turn back to save my comrade? Maybe completing or failing to do some optional tertiary objective has some later repercussions, like increasing troop strength. Again, great idea. Cause an event to not trigger later on. Even Arma 3's campaign has these sorts of decisions-making elements built in. The point is that I don't believe that it's too much to ask for a game to start with providing a polished, impeccable gameplay experience as a base, and then add to it a stunning and captivating story to be enjoyed. Yeah, again, you would think, wouldn't you? But here we are. In fact, I believe that this could be how they improve team play in multiplayer, allow players to unlock guns for use in multiplayer through this story mode, similar to how they were able to co-op in Battlefield 3. It gives players another reason to play through the campaign, providing additional purpose to the content. It can also provide a sense of achievement, certain guns available on certain difficulty modes, by completing specific challenges like finish X level using only your pistol. That's not a bad idea, but essentially what you're doing is you're putting like kind of skill gating into unlocking the weapons and so on again, and then that ends up, you know, giving some people an advantage in the multiplayer because they've unlocked it but other people haven't, and so I'm never too sort of okay with that kind of thing. He says, more than that, if you must put a grind in the game, let me grind out experience in single player to unlock those tasty attachments for the guns I like, rather than spend points on specific gear versus tier unlocks. That way when I head into multiplayer, I have a few loadouts that I feel comfortable with. This way I can concentrate on helping my team win the objective rather than feeling the need to grind for gear in the multiplayer. And heck, if someone prefers to play only multiplayer to unlock the gear, then just let them do that as well. Just gives us other ways to get the gear we want rather than the current system. It's certainly an interesting idea, having the ability to unlock stuff in single player versus in-game. I think the way it would have to go about it would be, if you were going to have stuff unlocked in single player, then you would have to, I mean, actually, you know how they always put these stupid achievements in game where you have to do X, Y, Z, you know, jump off a tower while simultaneously, like, no-scoping a pilot out of a helicopter to unlock an optic or whatever bullshit, you know. But basically, those kind of stupid achievements, which I absolutely hate with a passion and I think absolutely break the game, take that shit and put it in the single player, you know. Do the stupid things in the single player so that people want to fuck around with the game mechanics, they can do that. And then just leave the standard grinded XP unlocks in the multiplayer, and that way the people who want all the stupid nonsense so they can get their little videos of them doing whatever can do it in single player and keep the actual real gameplay in multiplayer. Do that and I'd be fine with it. And then just for an interlude, Warner says, I just want Zebra Tower the size of a GTA map, completely leveled, 45 minutes. Deal? Warner's got sick of making the long comments like he used to. I would love to see the Zebra Tower level of destruction. It was actually one of my favourite maps. In fact, actually, the Close Quarters DLC for Battlefield 3, one of my favourite DLCs. The gameplay was incredibly intense, the action was awesome, and the kind of micro tactics that you played out on those maps was absolutely brilliant. I loved it, and I never really got that experience again, except for perhaps some of the stuff in BF4 with Chainlink, which I also thought was one of the best game modes, and I should talk about that more because I really want to see Chainlink come back again. I absolutely love that mode. Right, big comment here from JMZ. Big comment says, first and foremost, remove KD from the displayed stats. People have talked about this forever. Please, for Christ's sake, do this now. I've always thought it has no place in an objective-based game where the focus should be on teamwork. Again, we've gotten to the point where that itself is a question now. In addition, make teamwork-based stats front and center. Again, you would think they would do that by now. Basically, keep the score system that it currently has, except kills don't contribute to it. Just no, they're not going to do that. Just an idea, but maybe make kills contribute to your score when enemies are killed near a capture point, something similar. But I can see that having its own set of problems. Yeah, yeah, definitely. When you add KD stats into a game, I think it fundamentally changes how the game is played. Well, you know, it is an FPS at the end of the day. It's no longer about how can I best help my team. It becomes how can I rack up the most kills in the cheapest way possible. This does, of course, depend on the type of player base the game has. I would say it more depends on that. But the kind of audience Battlefield caters to, KD stats shouldn't be anywhere near it. I think what you say is correct, that it's about the player base. You know, just having KD in a game fundamentally isn't the worst thing in the world. You know, look at something like Squad. At the end of the day, if you're denying people coming into an area and doing an objective, that's as valuable as killing them on the objective, you know? So it swings and roundabouts, and you know, as much as I know people sort of do, you got to keep it in perspective, and KD is important at the end of the day. It is a decent way of judging how effective somebody is. Even a sniper, you know, if a sniper is getting like 20 and 2, he's still killing 20 people and not dying very much. If a guy on the ground is getting like 15 and 3, he's still killing 5 times more than he is dying. So it is effective and it does help the team, but it's just like, it shouldn't be, if everybody focuses on that, then obviously the other stuff doesn't happen. It's more about incentivizing people, it's more about the carrot, less the stick. He says, secondly, make the gameplay slower. I think you made a great point in one of your previous videos about the speed in Battlefield games, that they're just too fast now. I do think that. He says, give the player room to breathe and time to assess the situation rather than just running in all guns blazing. Encourage more methodical and tactical gameplay. Combine this with the first suggestion, and while I'm no expert, I think it's going to pay out dividends. Thirdly, and I know this is going to be unpopular, but my honest opinion, that Conquest either needs to be fundamentally changed or removed as a game mode. It's not getting removed. There's 0% chance that it's going to be removed. He says, I believe it makes the gameplay inherently unfocused. I mean, yes, you've got set points you need to capture, but what determines the points you need to capture is whether the enemy has them or not. Now, this means the enemy could have captured a point anywhere on your map, in front of you, to the side, behind you, etc, etc. There's no direction. Conquest, in my opinion, should have a tug-of-war set over a front line, rather than a glorified game of whack-a-mole as it currently is. Also, I think this would go very well with the second suggestion in particular. If the gameplay is slower and the player feels relatively safe, i.e. they don't need to worry about enemies popping up from literally any direction, they can properly assess the situation. Anyway, this is just what I think. If they show a greater commitment to rewarding team play and not that guy, you know the one, sitting in a tank or playing all game and farming to their heart's content, then DICE would be well on the way to get me back as a customer. And I love the series, LT, keep it the good work. Yeah. Game modes is something I want to talk about. I think game modes I'll talk about in another video. I want to talk about changes to Conquest potentially in terms of capturing adjacent points, but backcapping has always been a really big part there, so I don't think you can have that. But maybe a new game mode, you know, territory or something like this, I don't know. There could be any number of things going on there. Rush, I would like to see revised and done properly. I would love to see Chainlink come back. I think it's one of the biggest things. I would like to see some close quarter focus stuff. Loads of different things in there. I want to talk about it more. Olaf comes in with a good point saying, why is matchmaking still so bad? Yeah, why is matchmaking still so bad in the game? Could it be the solution to all Battlefield's problems, where one team has a strong pilot? Why isn't there a method of the game currently inviting non-playing ace pilots to the other team, like, hey player name, there's a match going on that could use your help, do you want to join? Why is Battlefield's UI also so messy, like 1000 icons all over the place, and every kill is made so rewarding? People started to focus on kills instead of wins. Yeah, this has been a thing forever. Why not punish match-leaving players? That's something I wouldn't mind, except for the fact that the imbalance creates so many steamrolls that you're asking for a nightmare by doing that. There could be much done in this regard that I could go on for hours, and here we are still unable to join a game with your friends in the same squad. Did you see the stream of Dr. Disrespect and Shroud downloading BF4 and wanting to join the same game? They needed about 40 minutes to find each other and join the same game. That seems kind of surprising. I'm not really sure that's like a standard thing. I've never had any issue in that regard. But yeah, in terms of matchmaking anyway, it's something I've spoken about plenty, and I do think it's like a really big deal. I think matchmaking needs to be significantly improved. We just need to get all around better balanced games, and I think part of the problem is, as I have spoken about, the lack of player retention is the biggest issue there, because it's not so much that there aren't skilled players out there, but it's just this, you know, the constant turnover of players that's happening is what's creating this vacuum of skill, essentially. You're just having new players come in and leave and come in and leave and come in and leave, and that's another reason why you get these steamrolls all the time, because, you know, you've got players on one side with one squad who are just all about the team play, all about the objective, just battling and ruining, and the other team have just got nothing to hold up against it. You know, I played an entire round the other day where there was this enemy tank and it had like a full crew, and my team didn't even attempt to engage it at any point in the map. I was the only player out of 32 players who was trying to engage this fucking tank. It was an absolute shambles. I've never seen anything like it. Ah yes, Winshier's comment. I was waiting to get to this one. He says, game you desire already exists. It's called BF1. Balanced weapons, team players rewarded, solid netcode, good maps with destruction, includes complete building destruction. That's not really complete though, is it? I could literally show you so many buildings where it's not complete. It's not armor and never want it to be either. I don't remember anyone suggesting that it would be. Behemoths are cool but insignificant. Again, no. If you die to them, it's not a big deal, as they seldom last more than a few minutes, really. But cool factors they bring in is unparalleled. Battlefield's still at best FPS for 2 years now, and its immersion factor, attention to detail, is yet to be matched. Okay, my question mainly is, what are you smoking? No, I can't agree with almost anything there. Balance, what? Team play rewarded, how? Oh, that's not true. They did change the scoring system around a little bit, didn't they? They changed the scoring system around. I did think that was a positive thing, so that does benefit a little bit better. Netcode is generally pretty decent, not too bad overall, but again, you know, if you play in some rounds, you'll just know that, you know, there's plenty of times where you're pretty bang on target, but somehow missing. It's weird. So all in all, I just can't agree. I often include comments that you know, not just kind of agreeing with me, and this one clearly doesn't agree with me, but I can't agree with this comment either. I pretty much disagree across the board on all points there. That's really all I got. Okay, Thomas says, it'll take DICE a lot of improvement for me to return to the franchise. This franchise is going down the toilet like their game is the shit you're wanting to get rid of. Jesus Christ. There's so much with BF1, it's not even funny. Communication just isn't there. Tactics, just run around like a headless chicken and hold the trigger. Like, why are so many automatic firearms in the game? I know. Most of the rifles were bolt action or semi-auto, and please don't get me started on teamwork, it just doesn't exist. Yes. Anyone remember Command & Conquer Renegade? Sure, it wasn't the best game ever, but the teamwork was amazing. People actually communicate with teammates to plan a tank infantry rush to the enemy base in time to strike. Without it, you'd actually automatically lose the game. Honestly, if DICE keeps going the way they are now, I'm losing my faith, or trust, whatever. I'm not going to give my money to some ignorant development teams that doesn't communicate with their player base whatsoever. So will I be a BF5? Maybe. If it's just a reskinned World War II game of BF1, I'm done with DICE. If it's a modern shooter or futuristic like 2142, I'm going to give it a try. Otherwise, bye-bye. Now, that all in all there is obviously quite a brutal, harsh comment. But, you know, here's the thing. They do actually listen to their player base in terms of communicating. They do speak to their player base. But what I find is, personally, there's a disconnect between often what they say and then actually what happens, you know? And there's often, you know, I can just think of so many instances where I've spoken to developers and they've said, like, yeah, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, this is on the radar, and then it just doesn't happen. It gets deprioritized, something else takes its place, and, you know, to a degree, that's how a developer studio is going to work, you know? They're going to have things come in and out, different people can make decisions, things are going to go up, things are going to go down. They do often get involved in terms of speaking to people on Reddit. They obviously deal with a lot of YouTube producers and stuff like this, so they do that kind of thing. But ultimately, I just often feel like the decisions that do get made don't go in the right direction or go far enough, and I think that's really the biggest issue. The biggest issue is that they haven't made any really strong steps towards other directions. It's all been kind of like, you know, giving a little bit here, giving a little bit there, make a little gesture here, a little gesture there. Nothing just kind of puts the fucking hammer down and says, we're going all in. You know, and it's like, that's kind of because the game has gotten to this point now where it is like kind of a cash cow for EA, and they don't want to rock the boat. It's much more about the player numbers, and it's much more about the sales than it is actually about the quality of the game and the retention of the game. And that kind of connects back to what I was talking about at the start of today, my topic for today, in terms of this boom and bust mentality when it comes to gaming. Big sales, big pre-DLC sales, and then bang, bust the game. You know, and it's like that seems to happen a lot, and it seems to happen a lot because they seem to invest much more in the pre-release in terms of marketing hype and getting those units out and those sales made than they do actually in ensuring that the actual mechanical fundamentals of the game are fun to play and engaging and actually work. And when I say fundamental mechanics of the game, I don't just mean weapon balance, because they always, DICE are always tweaking and fiddling around with their guns and getting it all worked out and doing loads of patching of the game. We know that this happens, we see it, we know that they work on that stuff on that side of things, and it's all great, it's all very well and good. For most people, that's not the experience that most people are concerned about. Most people are concerned about the ring around the rosy. They're concerned about being in a game and clicking on your map, and at any point in any game where you click on the map, you're going to find like 80% of the players all in one place at any one time on the map, because they all just follow each other like a bunch of lemmings going from flag to 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 flag. The game series of Battlefield is fundamentally broken, as I have said repeatedly, not because of the game itself, not because of the mechanics itself, but because of the player base. The player base that exists now is not the player base that existed 5, 8, 9 years ago, whatever. It's a completely different player base. It's why you'll see people in a tank sitting back on the edge of the map like farming kills, and as soon as they take one round they just slam it in reverse and get out of there as quick as possible so they can maintain their KD. You know, these things don't happen in isolation, they're regular elements of the game, and I have seen so far zero effort to change and alter this in any shape or form. I've talked about this endlessly. Nothing seems to have made any change and move here, but more and more people do seem to be getting pissed off with it, and I do just wonder whether or not we're going to see anything happen in this next game. And that's why I'm still hopeful and interested, because every single time I'm kind of like, are they going to do it? Are they going to do it? Are they going to do it? Because I feel like eventually it's going to get to the point where they do have to do it. Because otherwise what you're left with is just a hollowed out shell of a game which really hasn't got any substance to it. It's very pretty, but there's just nothing there, and that's when you come back to player retention, which I've talked about. This idea that people come in, they try the game, they find that they don't actually have a good experience at all, and they think, this isn't what I thought it was going to be, I'm out of here. Okay, last comment goes to Jira then, who says, honestly, even if I had a computer good enough to handle Battlefield 5, I still wouldn't buy it. The FPS like COD and BF series are just too fast for me now. I like slow shooters like Squad and Project Reality, where it's more tactical, and dying could be a long time wait before you can get back in with squad mates. It's more about the objective, working as a team and being careful. Now just have a look at the gameplay video you put in for this question. You're constantly on the run, you're constantly looking around all the time, you never stop. Even when shooting and killing people, you are moving to either crouch or go prone and get up and running again. You don't have time to plan, to ambush, to work together. It's all rush, 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 rush. 100%, I've said this loads and loads. This is, Battlefield used to be able to be out working out where you wanted to go, attack, how you're going to do it. Now you just got to keep on the move, kill, kill, kill. It's all about maintaining the pressure on the enemy. He says, it's just too much for me. I never had the best reflexes, so it's never really good in most shooters, especially a fast-paced one. Instead of like playing a game like Project Reality, where I work with a squad of 8 to 12 people with a commander, giving out tactical orders and working like your Arma 3 Zeus team, sweeping areas for enemies and invading locations. Something slower and less constant rushing to shoot people, especially if I can get the chance to play the sniper and pick people off from afar at my own slower pace. Because of this, I personally know that I would never like Battlefield 5 and I won't be buying it at all. Or if I did, it would be on the PS4 for my brother to play, because he loves those kind of games. Yeah, so to conclude, this is the kind of sad reality of where we are now. You think of like Hardline being touted as the fastest Battlefield ever, but it even goes back further than that. It goes back to like Battlefield 3. Now, like I was talking about earlier, I enjoy fast-paced gameplay. It's why I enjoy Overwatch and stuff like this. I've always enjoyed gameplay which is very, very fast, but I also simultaneously really enjoy slow gameplay. It's why I don't mind, doing stuff in Arma where I take a very long time. We just sit around and wait. It's like, I don't mind it either way. It's why I'm also on board with Hell Let Loose, Squad, Postscriptum. I don't mind that kind of gameplay. I can appreciate both sides of it. But Battlefield 3 probably was the change for me. I know that's going to be surprising for some people because you're going to think like, hey, BF3, you know, that wasn't really focused too much on speed of the game or anything like that. No, it wasn't. But like I said, the DLC of Close Quarters, that's where they really started to show that Battlefield could work as a fast-paced, you know, highly engaged environment. Battlefield 3 Close Quarters DLC is still one of my favourites because of the fact that it was so fast. It was such a change-up, and it delivered the Battlefield game quality, but in a much close-quarter environment. And that was really enjoyable for me. Really enjoyed that kind of experience. The problem was that they kind of took that from there on out and then amplified it and pushed it harder and harder and harder. Till now we have, strangely, like a World War I situation that has almost become kind of like a Twitch shooter in some respects, because there's just so much happening at any given time. And another point to make is that, you know, it did used to be that you could look around you, even with public players, and think, oh yeah, I see those two guys to my left, so I know I'm good. And then next thing you know, you're dead. You know, you can't rely on other players anymore, which is why you've got to be checking around you all the time, looking, you know, 180, 360. You've got to be checking around you, beside you. And then on top of that, with BF4, of course, we had all the verticality of gameplay, which still exists on some maps in BF1 as well, which often made the gameplay really fucking irritating, because it's just kind of like, it doesn't matter where you're going, you think you've checked all around you, and then bam, some guy shoots you from above. So it's a lot of factors. It's nothing that just changed overnight. It's been this drip, and that's why for the longest time I've been trying to push back, trying to go in a different direction. I am genuinely very interested though this year. I know a lot of people don't have any faith whatsoever in this release, but I do. I genuinely think that from conversations I've had with devs and the general malaise that I have felt from players and producers, I feel like everyone feels kind of ground down, frustrated and fed up with the situation that Battlefield is in. I think EA feel, you know, burned so hard from Star Wars Battlefront, and people are kind of bleh with that as well. I feel like with this next Battlefield, their back is against the wall, and they kind of know it, I think. And that's why I think there's more of a possibility of them delivering something genuine of quality, and something where they actually maybe take some risks and push players to actually do the core elements of the game, instead of the dicking around and headless chickening that we've seen for the longest time. But we will find out. I'm going to keep my eye on it through this year. You tell me what you think down below as always, guys. See you next time for some more Below the Line.